There is a very famous samurai of old, and he's very famous for saying, never operate on a partial feeling. Now, when we sit down to the markets and then we trade, there are going to be huge chunks of time where we have this partial feeling. It kind of feels like it's going up, kind of feels like it's stopping here, kind of feels like it's going to hold this level of resistance. In these moments that we have a partial feeling, we don't have a real edge, and we're getting ready to do something low quality, to get in this and start chasing around price. We're going to end up getting hit around these things. This is what we are going to talk about. Things that are killing your deposit. They are not obvious, but you have thought about them 100%, but did not pay attention if you are watching this video. Now, mixed with all of these partial feelings, we'll have these moments of clarity there we see what's really going on. There is a real source of edge there we see repeatable type action where we know what to do and what's most likely to happen next. And if we want to be able to do this full time, it's going to be very important that we start to raise our awareness of our trading and to understand these moments of partial feelings and to understand these moments of clarity. Then we need to make sure that we are developing strategic patience so that we can hunker down, go hard when we have these moments of clarity, and then pull things back and be very careful not doing anything when we have these partial feelings. Sacrificing the good for the great. If you want more free psychology and trading insights about the market, then head over to our Telegram channel, where we post news, analysis, coins to buy, and even more. And of course, it's for free, so you can always change your mind and unsubscribe, but don't do that. Now, if we're talking about partial feelings, what we're really saying here is over trading and chasing around price, getting caught up and doing low quality things. A good starting place as a foundation to understand this is to start to make this observation, because we all have this experience and we've all been on both sides of these extremes. When we experience these partial feelings, these are things there is a lot of conflict. There's usually confusion, and in general, it's just forced. This is a very good way to start to understand then you're doing something out of partial feeling. If you have to force things and try to make things happen, and on the flip side of that, there is a clarity. Things are easy. It's a bit more effortless and doesn't have to be forced. One of the reasons why we can't force clarity, and this would be a key point to just hone on it, is because we can't control what the market does. The market gives, the market takes away. When we do have our edge that surfaces during these moments of clarity, it's not because we forced something to happen, it's because the market gave it to us. And we just have to be able to be there and to take advantage of it. We all have to understand what these extremes are. We all felt those times where we see things very clearly and where we don't. We feel like we have to force it and we're doing something that is just out of partial feeling. I think the best way to say it, if maybe potentially you're starting to observe this for the very first time, is to keep in mind that clarity can't be forced. Understand that, and this would be a normal day in the life of a trader. For almost everybody, we experience this. We sit down to the screens and we're just bombarded with these confusing kind of partial moments where we could be doing something. If we act out of those things and start chasing around price, we just get a bunch of mixed results. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And it usually leads to a drawdown. But we all know what it's like to be sitting on the screens and to have it just to be clear. We see it come down and test a key level and then return up to a target. We see the move. What normally happens is if you find yourself being caught up in a lot of these lower quality type trades, then those moments happen. It's very easy not to be able to see it in real time, but only identify it in hindsight because you're on a tilt or because you just frustrated into the action. If you're able to take advantage of it in real time, it's very normal to not be able to go as aggressive as you should, or to be able to take advantage of it in a meaningful way because you're scared or a little skittish due to being beaten up for the action that happened before. We can look back a lot of times to see the screen and just identify that we did on that day. We understand that if we would have just done this one thing, it would have been easy. I would have had a really good day. It would have been beautiful, but it wasn't beautiful. I had a really bad day, and it's because I did these 6 or 7 things that I shouldn't have. Talking about dealing with overtrading and partial feelings, a good base level of understanding, just some knowledge to think about, is that when we sit down to see the screens and we trade, however long we're on the screens, the majority of the time there is no trade to take. There is no physical action that needs to be done. I've heard it said by traders that good trading is boring. This really hasn't been my experience. I think that even if there is long period of time, maybe like 90 minutes, where I'm not taking an actual trade, I'm sure from the outside it looks very boring if you're just watching me. I'm potentially just sitting there looking at something, probably in silence, and not even sure what I'm looking at. But for me, and while we're trading, we're putting the information together. And the hard right edge is there, and we're getting bar by bar. There are things to put together and to keep track of. I find it very interesting actually, and at some level exciting to be a part of it. But of all the time that we're on the screens, most of the time there isn't actually anything to do. This needs to be talked about and understood. We should approach our trading with a good dose of humility and some wisdom of understanding that when you and I step into the screens as retail traders, we are walking into an environment where we are undercapitalized, under-equipped, undereducated, and underinformed. We are the freaking underdogs here. So think that we're doing to step into this environment and just constantly be able to time everything right, chase things around, and be able to do this consistently. It's crazy. Most of the time that we're on the screens, there's no physical action to take. This can be extremely difficult because most things in life are not like this. If you're working another job and there's just a long period of time there's nothing to do, you're probably being a very bad employee and you're probably not doing a good job for a very long time. But in trading, this is different because that doing nothing, that being patient, is a very important part of what we have to do. We all know this at some level, and we all know the famous quote that trading is a mechanism that exchanges money from impatient people to patient people. But even knowing that, it can be very hard to be patient. One of the things that has helped me a lot, and I think this can help you as well, is to start to reframe it. It's normal if you're sitting down at the screens and you're not doing something. You feel like you're missing out, like you're not doing a good job, like there should be something that you should be doing. So understanding that when we sit down at the screens, a lot of the time there is no physical action to take. During those times where we're doing nothing, just reframe it. We're not doing nothing, we're doing patience. Patience is a very important part of the job. Patience is not easy, but it is a skill, and this is something like every skill that can be worked at. We can improve our level of patience, that strategic patience to wait through, to ignore all of those partial feelings and to sacrifice that good for those great moments that will be coming. It can be worked on, but like every skill, it's not going to develop itself. If you don't prioritize this and if you don't focus on trying to get better at being patient, 3 or 5 years can go by and you're not going to be any more patient than you are and potentially still be struggling with chasing around trades that are happening. Another thing to think about is if you find yourself in this position where you're overtrading. This has to be one of the top 3 reasons why people don't make it as traders. They just get caught up in chasing around things, doing a lot of these partial feeling trades. If you find yourself doing that, it would be important to recognize that whatever we are doing in our trading, there's always a surface reason for why we're overtrading. Then, somewhere much further down, there's the root because of why it's happening. Typically, if you find yourself overtrading a lot and feeling those impulses, that root cause is based in your insecurity. Not being secure about your skills, not being secure in yourself as a trader, not being confident in your edge or in your knowledge, in the tools that you're using. As a way to overcompensating for just not being good, you find yourself feeling those impulses to need to force something, to need to do something. It does take a certain level of confidence in being good in yourself as a trader to be able to sit there and to do nothing, and to understand that you have edges and those edges will surface. When they surface, you're going to be able to take advantage of that. If you don't have this as a baseline of those feelings that you're building up, you're always going to be dancing around the surface. This can probably sound crazy. How should you not be working on your trading mindset? Trading mindset is like 80% of the thing. It's the most important. Not to put words in their mouth, but the way I think about what they mean by that is that trading mindset is really just dancing around the surface of the issues. It's easy to put so much effort, attention, and energy into trying to fix the surface of the issue, but we never fix the cause and we never make any type of meaningful progress in that way. But also, before we continue, remember to check out our free Telegram channel, where every day we post useful materials, analysis, news, and more. So we can save you hours of research, and if you change your mind, you can easily unsubscribe because it's totally free. Every time we sit down to the screens, it's going to be very important that you and I buckle down and make sure we have the real edge in place. Blocking out the noise and focusing on these things. By an edge, if you're confused about what it means, what I mean by this is just understanding repeatable type action that you have seen before, that you know that you have to do, and that helps you understand what is most likely to happen next. If you don't have that, if you're not clear about that, you don't have any kind of source of an edge. It's important that we buckle down, make sure we have a specific set of tools narrowed down that we're using and that we're mastering that help us identify these edges. These edges are well understood. We're working on our skills of analysis, building our skills of entries, managing our open trades, working on our risk. Outside of building those things and having those things in place, we obviously can't have these moments of clarity if there is nothing for us to be clear about. We're always going to be just caught up in chasing around these partial feelings. So back to what I was saying earlier about when you know these things about yourself and you can sit down to the screens and be confident in that, a lot of those impulses either go away completely or at least get much less severe. In the beginning stages, it can be very normal for these things to be aggressive and hard to hold back from and hard to move forward from. Every time you and I sit down to the screens, we are going to have an endless opportunity of partial feelings that we can get involved with, that we can take advantage of, and that we're just going to lead to the mixed results. But spaced out in between the noise and all of these partial feelings, we're going to have those moments of clarity. We have to sacrifice the good for the great, as I told you, and never operate out of partial feelings. So listen, at some level, we're all in this together. So with that, I wish you very happy trading out there. Don't do anything crazy, be safe, and good luck.